Good morning, everybody. I can't believe we're here, and this is our first ever Business Festival live session, and I'm so excited to be with you today. Goodness me, it feels like this has been months in the making. Actually, probably only been about 4 weeks, but still, that means we've had to pack an awful lot in. Persuaded a lot of experts to come and join us, and guests who are interviewing and all that sort of thing this week to help us really get going. So it's going to be a fun-packed few days. Obviously, we've got today's session now, how to lead your business so you thrive, and that's with me, and I'm being interviewed by somebody today. So I'll introduce them in just a few moments' time. This afternoon at 3:30, I will be interviewing a lady called Leslie Thomas, how to give yourself permission to charge what you're worth. And then tomorrow, we've got two guests. We've got David Charlton in the morning, business psychologist, and we're looking how to build mental toughness in your business. And in the afternoon, we've got Ali Nuttall, how looking after yourself physically will set you up for success. And then on Thursday, the last day, we've got the secret to achieving success in your business with me, and the final session, why uncovering purpose is the secret sauce to success in your business, also with me. And that's really one that I'm very excited about, as purpose is something that's very close to my heart and something I work on a lot with my clients. So now that's out the way, I'm really excited to be starting our first session with a subject, again, that's close to my heart, and this is leadership. And what I help people to develop, and being able to help and support all of you in leading you and your business towards success. So I didn't want to just talk at you for an hour, because that can be a little bit boring sometimes. I thought it'd be fun to do something slightly different and have someone interview me. So I have the wonderful Andrew Thorpe joining me today, who's going to take the lead on hosting the session and interviewing me and trying to draw out some of the expertise that I might not even know I had. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Paula. Great to be with you all.
Oh, thank you for joining us, and thank you for doing this. It's great to have you. Now, Andrew is a speaker, trainer, and consultant in the field of business storytelling. He specializes in what he calls verbal PR, helping people to frame and deliver a compelling message when they're looking to promote something. Now, in his view, it's a form of selling without it feeling like selling. And having worked with Andrew, I can say that that is exactly how it feels. In his view, it's a way of connecting with your audience and moving them to act. He also hosts the Leaning Forward podcast, all about verbal communication. So there we go, Andrew. Now that you're introduced and everybody knows who you are and what you do, you're obviously well versed in the art of interviewing with your podcasting, so I'm going to hand over to you.
I'm very, very excited to be involved in a summit, particularly as we've just had the G7. I think this is even more important. This is really vital stuff. Maybe we've seen some of those leadership traits in action on a very public stage in Cornwall.
Yes. I think I can honestly confess I haven't had time to follow everything, apart from understand how they've blocked off a great deal of public rights of way in Cornwall, and probably cheesed off the tourists who might be there right now.
Yeah, the narrowest roads in the UK.
Yes, exactly. So I can't imagine what the traffic jams are like just now.
But I think the other difference is we've not got seagulls in the background. I think your little birdies in the garden are a slightly different variety. But anyway, it's great to be with you. I'm really pleased to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining me. So go ahead. What questions have you got for me today that talk about how, or help me share my expertise about how we can lead ourselves and our businesses to thrive?
Well, there's something on your lovely graphic that I'm looking at on the screen that can't be ignored. and that's the natural leadership coach. And I'm sure our listeners and viewers are very intrigued to know what that means. So just enlighten us.
Yeah, good question. So it's really about the fact that I have a strong belief that everyone has the potential to be a leader. And sometimes certain things can get in the way of that. As the natural leadership coach, it's obviously my role to help people, become unstuck, remove those sort of blockers and limiting beliefs, as we call it, as coaches, that might be in the way. And it all starts with an understanding of where you are now and where you want to be. Those barriers to success could be anything from imposter syndrome to other limiting beliefs and difficulties with delegation or personal well-being. If this sounds familiar, then you're in good hands with me, which is great. Any successful coaching relationship requires trust and honesty. And of course, for me, that means a strong chemistry with my clients. And I do take great care and effort before engaging with somebody to make sure we've got that right fit, if you like, before we start working together. And during
the word natural then is applicable in the sense that you feel that there is a leader in all of us, but stuff gets in the way. You mentioned imposter syndrome. And I remember feeling that myself. I'm sure we've all felt it, but if I'm used to dealing with a certain level of client and then all of a sudden you put on a bigger stage, you think, my goodness me, do I belong here? All these people seem more experienced and have fancier titles than I have. So this idea of feeling slightly inadequate or out of place, is that one of those typical barriers that gets in the way?
You're absolutely right, Andrew. And, the good news with imposter syndrome, although it doesn't feel like this when you're in the middle of it, is that you're already successful when you're feeling that way. You have a level of expertise, and it's that self-doubt that starts to creep in that makes you feel a bit strange, a little bit odd about it, and start to doubt what you're sharing in terms of the services or and so on that you share on a daily basis. So you're already up there with the experts, but it's just that self-doubt that creeps in for whatever reasons it might be. And I talk about comparisonitis a lot, and I'm not sure it's a real thing, but in my world it comes up quite often, in that people are always comparing themselves to others, and that idea that, oh, look over there, they're doing much better than me, but little old me's never going to be as good as that. And the stories we tell ourselves really reinforce that feeling of being an imposter in your own skin, if you like.
Yes. One thing that's helped me over the years is that when you start out, obviously you've got a very, very small client base. And often it starts with, friends or people who want to support you, who hire your services initially. And I think rather than focusing on all the people you're not yet working with, do you not feel it's important to focus on the ones who have chosen to work with you for a reason, not just because they want to help you, but because they see some value in what you offer? And that can help build up your confidence a little bit. Has that been an experience that you've had? I certainly have.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely have had that experience. There are your, as I call, the close cheerleaders in what you do, especially when you first start out in business, the ones that really want you to succeed, and they want to, give you a little bit of a start and buy your services as you begin, and support you moving forwards. And that really does help support your confidence as you start out. And, you kind of think, oh, yeah, I really can do this, whatever your business might be doing. And stepping up into that space, having that confidence to do that and lead that service that you're offering, therefore leading you and your business in the right way for you, really can, be supported in that way.
And someone like yourself, you move from the corporate world into leadership coaching as a self-employed person. And I guess rather than thinking of yourself as a new leadership coach at the time when you started, albeit now some time ago, you've also got the years and years and years of experience behind you, which qualify you in a way to talk about the stuff that you talk about. So it's not just that you're starting afresh, is it? You've got all that history behind you as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's a really great reminder for people, because when you're talking to them about, the imposter syndrome or the lack of confidence, the self-doubt, all these things that kick in, you ask them about evidence that they have in their bank of expertise about when they were successful. And, after some sort of a few minutes of thinking, you see the light bulbs going off in people. Well, actually, yeah, I can do that. And I am worthy of this. And in my case, I was coaching for years internally in the corporate world before I left, helping many a senior leader, get to a different level, whether it was supporting them through interview processes and into and preparing for big interviews to go for, higher level roles, or whether it was big presentations they were going for. It was a lot about, being that thought partner for them and helping them gain the confidence and belief in themselves that they could go for these things. So you're absolutely right. That natural transition then to doing this full time just was a no-brainer for me to go and do what I love all the time.
And just going back to this again on this natural word in your title, you talk about having a chemistry test, or starting off a client assignment with a chemistry test. And I go back to school, I get all slightly hot and sweaty when I think about chemistry tests, but you don't mean it in quite in that way, do you?
No, I don't. And I'd be the same as you. Chemistry, I'd probably blow up the house. But chemistry in that chemistry you have between people when you make a connection, and a relationship starts to build. Now, if I think back to when we first met, Andrew, there was definitely a chemistry there when we first met, because we started talking, it was a hi, how are you? Because we actually met face to face.
Oh, did we do a handshake? Goodness me, I don't remember those.
A real handshake.
Yeah.
And being able to know that you've got that connection, see someone, look them in the eye. We've been able to translate that beautifully online. And I remember back to the beginning of lockdown and being able to help a lot of local businesses with the support or through the subs networking that we're part of, and supporting local businesses get comfortable with going virtual and how to build that rapport through the camera. All of those things that just felt completely unnatural when they were so used to face-to-face contact, and had been doing it for years and years. A lot of them were older and had been in their own business for perhaps 20, 30 years, some of them. So this was a real, I don't even know where to start.
But you're looking for that connection. You're perhaps looking for that openness maybe as well, that they're willing to open themselves up a little bit and be honest. I often used to get worried when people would say, well, just give me a couple of things I can think about. That's all I really want to know. And you think, well, it's not really quite that sort
More
of
to it than that. Yeah.
trite answers like that. We need to sort of start a little bit, get a bit deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot more to it than that. And being honest and open and being ready. Andrew, actually, there are some people you talk to and you just know they're not ready. They're not ready to have those deeper conversations, to really look inside and really be honest with themselves.
Yes.
It's not about, well, it is about being honest with me, but they've got to be honest with themselves first.
Yeah.
So,
let's move from the natural word to the next word now, leadership, because you chose a theme today, which I thought was very interesting. The idea of applying leadership to the running of maybe a small business. So perhaps you're a one-person band, as I am. I'm just an individual, consultant and speaker. I don't have any staff. How does leadership apply to me? It's an interesting question because we often associate leaders as being at the head of a big organization with lots of employees and, you know, a big workforce and a fancy title. So what made you choose this particular theme today, leadership within a small business?
I think it came down to the fact that I'm known as a leadership coach. So in this case, the natural leadership coach. And there's all sorts of different coaches out there, life coaches, relationship coaches, you name it, there's a coach.
Golf coaches. I used to be one of those golf coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say a sports coach as well. Football coach. We're all, striving to help support our clients in the specific niche that they're in. Now, I wanted to talk to our business community here today about leading themselves and leading their business, because, leadership or leader isn't just about a title. It's about, it's not just for those that are leading an organization or for someone else other than you, or, someone who runs a team or leads a team. It's about you leading your own business. Now, I've just heard a what's the word? Lawnmower go on. Can you hear that? Is that interfering with the sound?
It's not too bad. I mean, it was loud when it started, but it's not too bad now.
Okay, so the sound's adjusted. That's all right then. In that case, we shall carry on. So, from an early age, we witness greatness in children, and this reminded me of a lovely, lovely film. One of my favourite films of all times, Andrew, is The Polar Express. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
The reason I was thinking about that is because each child is given a special ticket, and it's not just a ticket as in a piece of paper. Something very special about the ticket. And towards the end of the film, or throughout the film, the conductor is punching holes in the ticket each time he checks it. And towards the end of the film, each child is given the final hole punches to make up a word on their ticket. And it's a virtue that they either need to learn or they already possess. And one of them was patience. I remember, of the boy that needed to learn to be patient, and the particular young lady that I'm thinking of, her virtue was leadership, that she was already displaying. And I think the children in the film are around 10 or 11 years old, and it just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you are, what time of your life you're in, you can always display leadership. And I really like that as a nice cross-reference when we think about how we lead ourselves and our business. And
you mentioned leadership in children as well. I think that my proudest moments was when I actually had to get the bus with my young son. He was probably about maybe 11 or 12 at the time, and we couldn't sit together because the bus was so busy. There were only sort of individual seats, and he was maybe 5 rows ahead of me. And the bus stopped, and an old lady got on the bus very, very slowly and had a bag of shopping, and she dropped her shopping on the floor as she was getting in. And my son was the first person to get up and help her. And I thought I'm so proud, because he could have just let someone else do it. But in a way, he took the leading role in that sense. So it's interesting you mentioned that, we can see it anywhere and everywhere. It's not necessarily just a thing for leaders per se.
Yeah. For that sort of, it's not just about that traditional view of leaders that we have in the corporate world. And then I was thinking about, well, okay, so it's to do with our mindset around this as well, because if you think about the concept and the research of somebody like Carol Dweck, for example, who talks about the fixed and the growth mindset, and again, she was looking at children in the early 2000s, and how, on the one hand, if you lead a child to believe that they have a finite ability in something, and that if they try it once and they can't do it, then that's it. Then that leads them to develop a fixed mindset, because they never believe they're capable beyond that constraint.
They just say, "Oh, I can't do this," and then give up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then on the other hand, and I am going to turn that off because or shut the window rather, because any second now they're going to start that again, and we will have that noise again. So it's actually my husband, so he'll be in trouble after this.
Oh, he's going to have a bit
of the fact that the grass is being lawned. I can't mowed. I can't have it both ways, can I?
No, either one or the other.
And so, on the other side of it is, the fact that we think about nurturing children, encouraging them despite failing the first time. Try again, keep going, practice, and you'll get better. All of that helps them to develop a growth mindset. So, and encourages them to lead themselves to success from an early age. So it's, a lot of the way that some of us see these things could be limiting beliefs that we're holding on to from childhood, in that, we were told, well, you're never going to be able to do that. Or, if you've got nothing to say, keep your mouth shut, that kind of thing, that doesn't really help encourage you to develop or have confidence to speak out, for example. So
it seems to me that, again, just relating it to running a small business, that when you start out, you often feel, again, this slight imposter syndrome. So if you look at something like thought leadership, you publish a lot of great stuff on LinkedIn and you're putting your thoughts, your wisdom out there. Initially, a lot of people will think, well, I'm not sure I have anything to say yet because I've only just started my business. But again, going back to all that experience they've had before, you've got to draw on what you already know and maybe package it in a way that then can be consumed by the audience. So you almost have to believe that you have something to offer in the form of wisdom and something that might influence people's behavior.
Absolutely. And I definitely used to be somebody who thought I had no stories to share. I didn't have relevant experience that anybody would be interested in. And it's so interesting how that, having your own business means that if you don't promote yourself, nobody else is going to. So you have to really find that courage from within to speak out about those stories. And I remember something that somebody said last year that was quite helpful, in that to be an expert, you only have to know more than the average person in the room at any one time. And I just thought that was such an interesting way to look at it. And you really do allow yourself to, take that chance that you know more. And, my sort of piece of advice there would be, if you start to speak up and you find that somebody else knows more, invite that conversation, see what you can learn from them, because next time you will know more. And you're always, if you look at life as, learning a little bit every day, which I love to do, then you're always building that, now I'm going to use a phrase you use, that library of stories that you have in your pocket to bring out at any time that you need them.
And I've always felt, Paula, that we're all the world #1 expert in one thing, and that is the experiences that we've had, because no one else has had that specific experience, because they're all unique in a way. And a lot of the broader advice people give is good advice, but we've probably heard that kind of advice before, but we haven't heard it illustrated through your specific experience. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the powerful aspects of drawing on your own experiences, that it does make that lesson that you're teaching sound different and sound authentic, because you're linking it with that thing that you've gone through.
You're absolutely right, Andrew. And, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of leadership coaches out there, I'm pretty sure. And what makes me unique? Well, my journey of how I got here and my experience, the way I share my stories. If we go back to that naturalness, that calmness and natural approach that I bring to my work, that's what makes me unique. And that's why people will choose to work with me over a leadership coach who has a very different personality, a different journey to get to where they are, and bring something very different. So, there's space enough for all of us out there. And I just want to bring up a comment here from Darren, who's watching live. We were talking about evidence, and he says, the flip side of the coin, do I ever ask what evidence has shown up that you don't belong here? And yes, absolutely, Darren, I do ask that question, because people really do struggle to answer that. You're absolutely right. It's so difficult to prove that you can't do it, when in a way you've got no reason to think that you can't do it, because you've not really tried. So it's an interesting way to look at that.
It's a very interesting point he makes. And again, drawing on my own experience, when I started out about 12 years ago doing what I do now, I think my challenge was finding the right audience. So I think that I was in the right space in terms of what I was, the beliefs that I had and the theories and the techniques that I was developing, but it wasn't finding its audience. And with a little bit of tweaking to the message, but also circulating in different places, that's where it began to take root.
Yes.
So it's not that I decided to do something else, it's that I decided to position it differently and maybe try it in different places, and then it became the right thing to do.
And you've definitely got a point there. For all of our business entrepreneurs in our community here in the group, some of us are still trying to find our way and find, knowing intrinsically that what we're doing is absolutely right, and loving what we do and wanting to do more of it, but not quite getting it in front of the right audience and sharing it in the right way that resonates with them to the point that they go, I've got to have some of that.
Yeah.
So, you're absolutely right.
And it might be that you're using the wrong platform. It might be that, Facebook's your thing rather than LinkedIn. It might be that Twitter or Instagram is where you need to be. But unless you try, then you don't really know.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that it knocks you off course from the path that you think you're on. It's just that it might need to find a slightly different niche.
Yeah.
Now, let me return to this leadership thing again, because I mentioned the G7 summit, which many of us have been watching from Cornwall, an odd place for the G7 summit, but there you go. I'm sure it boosted takings temporarily in the area. But what do you notice in leaders that you admire, those people who are perhaps on the public stage, that can still apply to leading a tiny business like mine, as like an individual consultancy or a one-person band? What crosses over?
Oh, there are so many things that cross over, Andrew, and a good question. There are lots of traits that are just as important, whether you're the CEO of a huge pharmaceutical organization that's global versus being just us as the CEO and lead of our business. Even though we're one person, it's still a business and we're still delivering a service. So it's the same thing, just on a smaller scale. So how you choose to show up, and having that mindset that we talked about, being growth and knowing that it's not just about leading a huge corporate, it's about leading you and your business here, is super important for you. And some of the things that I see are things like promoting your vision, or managing priorities well, delegating tasks. Delegating isn't easy, you know. A lot of people struggle with that, but being a good leader isn't about getting in there and doing it all yourself, because you can't absolutely do everything yourself, especially if you start to grow your business, you know. So learning how to let go of some of the things and focus on the important stuff.
So I guess delegation applies. Obviously, if you're in a big organization, you need to delegate to maybe an executive assistant or other people in the department or in the organization. But when you're a one-person band, you're delegating externally to people who maybe still provide those sorts of services. And I guess our friend Hannah is an example of that. Hannah Williams, who does that. You know, she did, what does she call an online business manager?
Yeah, so she comes in and becomes your operations manager and takes over all of that headache of managing, you know, the smaller teams, the HR stuff, the processes that you haven't yet put in place that were okay for when you were one-on-one, but now you're starting to grow and more people are getting involved. Putting those processes in place and having somebody like Hannah to do that is absolutely, you know, invaluable to your business.
But she's not an employee of the company. She's self-employed, but she is still seen as a vital cog in that machine. But only if people recognize that you can still delegate externally.
Yes, exactly. And the sooner you're able to bring on that external support, as a business entrepreneur, the easier it's going to be, you know, getting virtual assistant admin support, for example, you know, or the kind of day-to-day things that you don't particularly like doing, bookkeeping, that sort of stuff, you know, getting that extra support which allows you to focus on what you're doing is hugely important. Now, I've got a comment here, Andrew. Let me just bring this in because it might just be relevant to something we had a moment ago. I'm often told how much clients appreciate my positivity and energy, how they feel uplifted and ready for positive action after our sessions. Someone said I sprinkle Annie magic wherever I go. I hope so. I think if that's the Annie I think it is, I think we can safely say you definitely do. And another one here, totally agree with you. Effective delegation in organizations is key. Then when you work alone, I feel it's so important to recognize what needs to be outsourced or what you need help with. And I think that really is a learning curve as you develop in your business, and know what to keep within, and is all about leading your business. So, you know, if you think about promoting your vision, Andrew, is another great thing that leaders do. And what does it mean? Well, if I think of somebody like Richard Branson, he's the leader of Virgin Group, and all its different parts that he likes to dabble in. And you know, their vision is so compelling, you know, to change business for good. And I think it's so simple and so easy to remember. But what would happen if you in your business could articulate your vision as simply as that? You know, when you're setting up a new collaboration with somebody and you're able to, so they say, and I remember I was laughing about this before in a Queen style, and what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah,
you do it so much better.
She's probably asked that more than any other networker.
I bet she has.
She's heard lots of elevator pitches.
But it's so important to become crystal clear on that vision, and, you know, bring others along. You know, get them to buy into why you do, what you do, and your long-term vision, whatever that might be.
It's so right, Paul. And this idea of having a vision and putting your thoughts and beliefs out there, it's not just something that Richard Branson can do. Again, we in the small business community can do that as well. There's a guy called Michael Margolis, an American who works in my field of storytelling, who signs off his emails, by the way, with the brilliant line, "Metaphors be with you," which I really like. I wish I'd thought of that. Absolutely. I wish I thought of that.
I can't believe you didn't think of that.
That's how well, you know, I can't steal it. I mentioned it that he did it first. And I first came across him because he published a manifesto about his beliefs around, storytelling and applying it in the business world and so forth. And I was so taken by this, and it's actually circulated a lot. It's helped to raise his profile, but it's also helping him hone his message by building it around a set of principles, which he then can talk about. And it's almost like his calling card. And I followed suit. I shamelessly copied his idea, not with the metaphors be with you idea, but just having a manifesto, writing it out, putting a set of beliefs down there. Mm-hmm. And I feel that if you can move beyond just talking about your work in the mechanical sense of saying what you do, to the beliefs and the principles that sit behind what you do, that's much more interesting.
I agree. And I think, one of the things that I do is help people understand and connect with their values. And we've got a session on it this week, and we've got the summit on it on LinkedIn later today, all about purpose and connecting with your purpose. And I think once you do that, everything becomes so much easier to talk about, because purpose is your anchor that grounds you, in challenging times, or grounds you in the stories that you tell about, the work that you do. And I really, really do believe the more crystal clear you can get on the vision that you have, the values that you bring, the strengths that you have, all of those things, and especially your purpose, then that really does help you articulate your story and help you show up as the natural leader that you were always meant to be.
And do you not feel that it sort of builds or feeds your confidence as well? Because you've almost got they sometimes describe it as your true north, your compass head. It's the platform, it's the basis of everything. And it's always struck me that it gives you that sense of certainty and gives you added gravitas, I think, as well, because people can see, this person really believes what they're talking about. They thought it through. There's something behind, the more surfacey stuff that they could talk about. And it's always struck me that it gives you that greater sense of being grounded in what you're doing.
You're absolutely right. And it's that honesty and integrity that comes with it. Because if you're trying to make up a vision because you like the sound of it, yet you don't really feel it or believe it, it will show when you talk about it. If you say, my purpose is to, I don't know, feed the ducks, but you don't do that every day when you show up, then people will see that you don't really believe that your purpose is feed the ducks. Don't know why is that example, but you know what I mean. But if I share my purpose with you right now, it's the courageous natural artist, nurturing trust with soft tenacity. Now, courage, trust, and tenacity are the three things that really come through for me, when I think about my purpose and in what I do and how it anchors me day to day. The courage to start my own business and show up every day as the leader I want to be. The trust in myself that I can do it, and the trust in others to work with me, and the tenacity to keep going even when it's hard work. You just keep going because you really want it, and you're hungry to make it succeed. And that I lead from that purpose in everything that I do. And that really has helped me to be able to show up in a way that I never thought possible.
So I guess you're leading then, in the sense that you're trying to lead people's thinking, to orientate them, to help them reframe things that they perhaps didn't think of the same way before. In that sense, you're influencing their thinking as a thought leader. But you're also having to lead yourself, because there's only you're the only one running your own business. It all comes down to you, and all those little self-doubts that creep in, or getting distracted, doing things that you shouldn't be doing, failing to delegate things that don't allow you to focus on what you need to focus on. These are all forms of leading yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, as we think about ourselves as leaders and going back to the traits, Darren's asked a good thing here, or a good question, you know, would you recommend, say, 3 key traits that you recommend to all leaders to actively work on, you know, to put themselves in a good place to lead themselves? So, you know, promoting your vision, obviously, we've talked about that as one, but I think listening actively, hugely important. I cannot stress enough how listening actively, you know, and listening to understand and not to answer. You know, you'll remember this, Andrew. If I saw a TED talk about quieting your advice monster. It was Michael Bungay Stanier. What a great guy. An executive coach, written a book. His book's excellent. The 7 Coaching Habits, I think it's called. Anyway, the little TED talk that I'm referring to about quieting your advice monster, how people listen. And, you know, you may be a few words into your sentence and already in their head, they've formulated the solution to your problem. And they're listening to you, but not really, because they're like, oh, I really need to interrupt and tell you what I think, and I can't wait to tell you what I'm going to say. You know, and really, it's about quieting that advice monster on your shoulder, listening to learn what they're saying, really understand, and then if they ask you, what do you think I should do? That's, you know, a different matter. Or you know, offering support or reacting appropriately.
Yes.
In the moment. So that's another one. And then another one was let me just think, what did I think about earlier? Out of the list, you've also got managing risk is another one, I think, you know, out of the things that I pulled out. You know, you can decide what level of risk you're comfortable with, and the more risk you take, let's go back to the confidence building, Andrew, you know, that will help build your confidence, because, you know, if you take little incremental steps that take a slightly greater risk each time, you're not risking huge amounts, but you're you know, taking a calculated risk, shall we say, to help you improve, help you get towards where you want to be. Now, actually, I'll talk about risk in a slightly different way on one of the sessions later this week. I believe it's the Thursday morning session. And Darren's just asked, actually, can a person's purpose change? Now, that's a really interesting question. What tends to happen is, if you do the work and you reveal and ignite your purpose and find your personal inspiration, if you look at it again a year, 2, 3, 4 years later, you may find that you tweak it slightly, and you may find that you actually have another purpose on top of that. You know, so some people I know do have 2, but what hasn't happened is that they've lost the first one. You know, they don't suddenly disconnect with that deep work as to the purpose that they produced that first time around, that came out of them in all the stories they told and how they expressed it. So it doesn't change per se, but it can develop over time. So it is interesting.
It's a very good question, that, because I relate to that in the sense that when I started out, I knew there was something around a desire in me to humanize business, to make it more soulful, less cold, less transactional. And obviously that was through the way people communicated. There was something in that I knew sat very well and deeply within me. But it's the way that I've articulated it over the years has changed. The audience that it's aimed at has changed. But the basic belief in there's something in this has not changed.
Yeah. Exactly. And somebody's just saying here, and I can't see who it is, but life events can change what matters most. Values remain intact, I find. Yes, your values are your core values, no matter what happens to you. And again, purpose is part of who you are, no matter what life can throw at us, and it can be terribly cruel from time to time. But, you know, the lovely thing about purpose and really your values, I would say, is that they anchor you in those times of challenge, that you're able to always come back to that. That's the one thing that remains constant for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you become a little bit more reflective and philosophical the older you get as well. So that's a natural change, I think, in people.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. You know, I certainly am a lot more wise, reflective and thoughtful about these things, is probably the best way to describe it, as I gain more experience and, you know, a few more grey hairs come through. So
yeah. I'm thinking of growing a long white beard.
You'd make a great Gandalf.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah, but he was about 940 years old, Paula. What are you saying?
Oh, you've got a long way to go. That's all I can say. Well, actually, I choose to look at it the other way, in that you're already as wise as he is, and it took him 900 and whatever years to get there. You've got there in only 50. What can I say? I say all the right things.
Yes, you. Very wise. Anyway, Paula, should we draw to a close? I think we've probably come to a natural conclusion now. There are some great questions we've had as well from Darren and others. But I want to thank you for all of the insights and the wisdom that you've given us there. I think it's been a great value to the listeners and the watchers. Certainly has to me. And I've really enjoyed our friendship since we met all those months ago. And we actually shook hands. I do remember that. But it's been really interesting to see your business grow and your ideas develop and blossom into that certainty, I think, in what you're doing now comes through loud and clear. So I recommend everybody seeks out the natural leadership coach, because I think it's such a great angle and a great way of describing your work. So thank you, Paula.
Well, thank you, Andrew, so much for helping me out today and interviewing me in your superb style. It's been wonderful, actually. It felt much more like a conversation, which is lovely for both of us. And I've, as always, learned lots of little snippets from you again, as I always do. So thank you so much. What I'll do is pop you out of the broadcast, and I shall stay on for a few minutes to talk to everybody and tell them what's coming up later on today. And Darren's just saying thank you so much to both of you. That was a fab session and gave lots to think about. So thank you, Andrew.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, everybody.
See you soon. Okay, everybody. So we are coming to a close, but before we do that, have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you and talk about. Obviously, it's so good to have somebody to help you on these things and draw out all the things, so much more than I thought I could say. I mean, you know, I prepare for these things, and as always, you go off at a tangent and talk about so many more different things, and it's wonderful to do that. So thank you again to Andrew for helping us today. Now, I am, of course, delighted to share all this fantastic value with you this week. And I'm already reminding myself of so much today that I know more than I think I know. And that goes for all of us. And if we think about the confidence we just talked about with Andrew there, then that's, you know, this is one of those things you can do to build that confidence as you go. But I wanted to share a little bit about what it would be like to work with me. Now, obviously, you all have picked up some of that today and some of the things I've shared. But, you know, I do bring that calm to people's sort of complex and chaotic world. You know, I'm always there to help them navigate to the right solutions for them when it can seem far away and unreachable. And really get to the purpose and the success, or the vision of success that they're looking for. So how do I do that? Well, I have lots of different ways, of course. and it depends on what the client needs. But I have created the 5 R's framework that anchors the support that I give. Now, it's not super structured in that you have to go through the 5 R's, but I use that to help support and guide the journey that we take together. And I do this by helping them connect with their purpose, understand what matters with them, set their vision and goals, and plan to take action to achieve the results that they truly want. I have different programs, of course, including Connecting with Your Purpose, surprisingly, and for individuals, and the Accelerated Purpose Experience for teens, as well as my Realisation to Results group coaching program, which is quite structured around 5 R's. The one I wanted to just mention to you today is the On Point one-to-one program, as I'm opening spots on that program now. If you wanted to work with me, that's the way to do it. It's a 12-week program that looks at all aspects of how you lead you and your business. It gives you the opportunity to have a thought partner that will hold you to account throughout the program and support you to get the results you really want. Whilst there is, of course, program structure, the program can flex to suit your needs and the situation you currently find yourself in. So if you would like to have an On Point realisation call with me, where we can discuss how On Point one-to-one coaching could support you, then I'll post the link underneath this live once we finish, so that you have that and you can book in for a chat together. So this is your chance to get up close and personal with how you lead you and your business and help your business to thrive. I'm really excited to connect and see how I can help you all. And of course, back at the start of the pandemic, Andrew got a taster of what it was like to work with me in those virtual sessions that I talked about earlier. And it does feel like a lifetime ago, but so Andrew can share what it's like to work with me. So if you want an honest version of what it's like, he's a good person to speak to, and he is a member of the group. So you could do that directly. But thank you again to Andrew for helping today. Thank you again to all of you that showed up live, and to all of you watching on replay. Hello and thank you. Please do ask your questions still, because obviously I'll get notified in the group and be able to answer those. And I will see you at 3:30 again today, when we're joined by the fantastic Leslie Thomas, the Money Mastery Business Coach, to work with us on how you give yourself permission to charge what you're worth. So thank you, everybody. That's it for now, and I'll see you today at 3:30. Bye-bye.